I was in Kalamazoo, Michigan. It was a boring day off. Then we were just out on the street, you know, bumming around, killing time. And we went into a pawn shop. And I wasn't one of those pawn shop guys. I never went to pawn shops. But one of the guys I was with, I think it was one of the guys in the crew, loved to go to pawn shops, so I went with him. And there was my number one, my black 72, with a cigarette burn in the neck and everything. And the guy wanted $200 for it. And I said to myself, that seems really inexpensive, right? I didn't know anything about the price of jazz basses or what the market was. It didn't have a case. It had like this shitty cardboard case. And it was $200, so I just bought it. I just thought, well, I'm gonna buy this. I bought it and I played with it for a couple of years and we tweaked it a little bit. I didn't use it in the show and I didn't use it in concert. On record, didn't use it on record, but I kept it at home. And I think it was when we were recording Moving Pictures that I pulled it out because I thought, let me try a different bass instead of using the Ricky all the time. I was surprised when we plugged it in how easily I could shape the top end to sound like a Ricky top end. But I was getting a different kind of shape in the bottom end. I was getting a bit more punch. And I ended up using it on Tom Sawyer, which many people to this day don't realize is a Fender bass, not a Rickenbacker bass. So that sort of began my curiosity about my number one. And that's how I came across it. There's never been a bass that sounds like that bass. Like I have now, I don't know, 25 jazz basses. And none of them sound exactly like that bass. So there's a particular mojo to that instrument. And we've made changes, like the neck, the poor original neck on my number one had been through just a few too many gigs. So we finally had to change that out. The frets have been dressed just too many times, and the truss rod had been adjusted just too many times. So once we changed the neck to a custom shop neck, and I could then, you know, tweak that, it was kind of a real eye-opener, because usually when you buy a bass you get used to the thing as it was born. But when you have a neck that's kind of custom shaped to the way you like to play, your playing improves. It just does. The neck makes it easier for you to do what you got to do. That's particularly of interest in this American bass because it's really the same bass neck that I would use. We put the same markers in. I know some people prefer the black block markers, but there's something really subtle about the tone. There's a particular tone. And we went back and forth with them about the color tone of these markers to make sure they really were like the ones that I was using on stage. So it's just nice to be able to have that kind of control. And when you pass it on to the public, hopefully they'll appreciate that. I mean, the signature is very close to my number one. And when we decided to make a signature bass, I wouldn't let my number one out of my hands. There's something about that bass. And so all the Fender guys were really accommodating. They came down to the show and we measured every square inch of the bass. And so the original signature is pretty darn close as we could get with the parts that we had, you know. It's very acceptable. You have to understand that every bass sounds a little different, you know. Every pickup is wound a little bit differently. So there are always tiny peculiarities, and that's why people become fanatical bass instrument collectors, because they're all a little different, and everybody has a different theory about the mojo in an instrument, right? So we spent a lot of time A being pickups, A being the tone, and I think we've come up with a bass that's affordable and very close to what a custom shop bass would deliver for you. I was always very proud of the quality that went into my signature basses that Fender was making. We tried hard to make a bass that was a decent price, an affordable price, and had a high quality, good necks, good parts. Then they approached me to do an American-made one, and we said, okay, then if that's going to happen, then let's include some of the custom things that I have on my number one bass. And that has evolved over time. Over the last 5 years or so, I've gone away from the standard finish on the necks. So we sand the finish down on mine, and we oil them a bit, and I was really pleased with how fluid the neck felt. There were no sticking points, especially because I play really hard on stage, and I sweat a lot, and the sweat doesn't seem to stick to the neck. So it was a really nice change. And so we said, well, let's include that in the US version. And you know, we've done a transition from the Badass bridges to what we're calling the Geddy Lee Signature bridge. It's a high mass bridge. We didn't really want to change from Badass bridges, but there have been production problems over the years in getting enough of them. And it was becoming an issue, it was becoming a problem. So my tech, John McIntosh, myself and the Fender Custom Shop got their heads together and came up with a slightly modified version of that kind of thing. And it's working so far very well. It sounds very close to the original bridges that we had. And so that's a nice kind of addition to it. It's a beautifully made bass. I mean, obviously, to have a custom shop bass is the ideal. To have a master builder build you an instrument is hard to beat. I still think the Signature bass is a great bass and a great price range, but if you want a slightly better instrument, a slight step up, then the American-made instrument is that kind of instrument.